Joining us on the debate, Radha Kumar is part of the team of interlocutors Jammu and Kashmir. She's joining us from Delhi. Tanveer Sadiq joining us. She's spokesperson of the National Conference. Murtaza Khan is legislature party leader in the J&K Legislative Council. He's a member of the PDP. Thank you very much. Tanveer, isn't it strange yesterday? Okay, before I go across to Tanveer, Radha Kumar, can you hear me? What do you make of this fight that's broken out between the National Conference and the Congress party on why powers are not being devolved to Panchayat leaders in Jammu and Kashmir at a time when the Panchayat leaders are being targeted by militants? Isn't this the last thing that should have happened? Ms. Radha Kumar, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but the sound is terrible.
Okay.
And there's a back
okay, I'll just come back to you. Let me play one more clip at this point of what Omar Abdullah said at the press conference before I come into the debate.
न सिर्फ रियासत में बल्कि मुल्क भर में ये तासुर देने की कोशिश की गई है कि यहाँ पे बवाल मच गया है, पंच सरपंच जो हैं रात दिन इस्तीफा दे रहे हैं और हुकूमत की तरफ से कुछ नहीं किया जा रहा है। सबसे पहले ये कि अभी तक कुल मिला के हुकूमत के पास 50 इस्तीफे आए हैं जब से पंचायत इलेक्शन किए गए, यानी कि पिछले साल से इस साल तक कुल मिला के 50 इस्तीफे हमारे पास हैं, जिनमें से एक भी हमने कबूल नहीं की। तो कोशिशें की जाएंगी इस निजाम को बिगाड़ने की, इन पंचों को और सरपंचों को डराने की। लगभग हर जगह जहां पे इनको धमकाने की कोशिश की गई है, वहां पुलिस के जरिए जहां कार्रवाई हुई, हमने उन लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया है और उनके खिलाफ केस जो है दर्ज किए हैं।
On the news hour tonight, by downplaying the Panchayat resignations due to the terror threat is Omar Abdullah downplaying the threat itself.
Let me go across to Radha Kumar once again. Radha Kumar, if you can hear me now, I think the audio is clearer now. My question to you was,
yes,
that what do you make of a chief minister who's downplaying the threat when there are reports of over 200 punches and sarpanches announcing their resignations?
I can't hear you at all. All I'm getting is...
Okay, I'll try and come across to you later. Let me go across to Tanveer Sadiq. Tanveer, if you can hear me, why is Omar Abdullah downplaying the threat today?
Mr. Goswami, he's not underplaying or undermining the threat. He has come on, he has held a press conference today. He has explained everything. He has explained what are the measures taken by the government. And I think that should be clear enough to all of you that we are taking it very seriously. And he even went to the extent of saying, in case we need to provide individual security to these
no, why has he blamed everyone but himself? The question is, why has he blamed everyone but himself? Let me get in Murtaza Khan. Murtaza Khan, your reaction to the Chief Minister's press conference today. Do you feel he was downplaying the threat?
Yes, Arnab. Yes, Arnab. Let me put it this way, that unfortunately these panches and sarpanches, they have been caught in a devil and the deep sea kind of a situation. Right from the day one when they got elected, Omar Abdullah has been showcasing them as one of his biggest achievements in Jammu and Kashmir. And he portrayed it as an end to militancy and restoration of normalcy. This is one. Secondly, he always tried to clip the powers that the local legislations had provided to the panches and sarpanches. Repeated exercises were made in this regard, and to quote, I'll say that the Speaker of the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly constituted a committee to define the powers of the legislators, which indirectly was aimed at curtailing the powers of the panchis and sarpanchis as provided in the Panchayati Raj Act. I somehow was a member of that committee representing the upper house. I walked out of that committee in protest and said that no, look here, you had made a promise to the panchis and sarpanchis to empower them and decentralize the powers in Jammu and Kashmir. It was only because of my move that ultimately his design was scuttled when media intervened.
No, he's now blaming the Congress party for it. He's blaming the Congress party for it. And even the Congress party has blamed him right back. Mr. Sadiq, I don't know if you heard Rahul Gandhi today. Even Rahul Gandhi has blamed him right back. Rahul Gandhi has said that in Jammu and Kashmir, powers should be delegated, but they are not being given. I mean, is the PDP wrong? Is the Congress party wrong? Is the media wrong? Is everybody wrong?
No, I have yet to come across anybody from the Congress saying that, blaming us. Neither has the Chief Minister blamed anyone. What he said is that a successful election, we never meant...
Rahul Gandhi has said that elected panchayat leaders are not being given powers.
Listen.
I presume Rahul Gandhi is the Congress leader.
Let me clear. Either you listen to me or you don't want me to say anything.
No, I was telling you the factual position.
Hear me across. Hear me across. See what he said. It is a coordination committee decision. There is Congress and National Conference is in the coalition. We decided the panchayat election would be held. We never said that militancy would end if the panchayat elections are here. Now, after the successful panchayat election, it is only for the development that it happened. Now, having said that, we have already passed, devolved the powers to them. 14 departments, including so many things that I will have one full hour to explain what are the...
One second, Murtaza wants to contradict you. I welcome Meenakshi Lekhi into the debate. 1 minute, Murtaza wants to contradict you. Meenakshi Lekhi, welcome to the debate. Murtaza, go ahead. I would like to place on record here that it is...
We never said that it was not an indicator that this normalcy was returning. But the point is that he repeatedly mentioned this, thereby provoking those who were against the process of democracy in Jammu and Kashmir and who were against the holding of elections in Jammu and Kashmir. These people, they were exposed to a great risk on the one hand, and on the other hand, the security could have been created from their respective constituencies by the Chief Minister by empowering these people so that they get back to their electorate and they work for them to their satisfaction so that they get indigenous security from amongst the people. Now, instead of giving them the powers, the Chief Minister simply says that he has empowered them with 14 departments, but it remains a fact that on ground, these panchis and sarpanchis...
He says I can't do it because the Congress party won't let me. He says that I can't do it because the Congress party won't let me.
If Mr. Khan has to say, I mean, he has to oppose just for the heck of opposing it, I have no answer to him.
1 minute, Mr. Sadiq, we are only going by what your party party's Chief Minister has said. Meenakshi Lekhi, let me get her into the debate. 1 second. Meenakshi Lekhi tonight. 1 second.
Chief Minister today.
Your Chief Minister has downplayed the entire threat that is posed by terrorist groups, and I wonder why.
He has already...
Do you believe, Radha Kumar, if you can hear me now, if the audio is better, do you believe Omar Abdullah failed to respond to the threat which came from terror groups who were targeted elected panchayat leaders since early April?
Sorry,
can you hear me, ma'am?
Gone again.
You've lost my audio again. Let's go across to Meenakshi Lekhi. I'll try and come back to you later. I thought you heard me there. Meenakshi Lekhi. You know, we are now seeing this fight between the Congress party and the PDP on this issue. We have the National Conference representative tonight who says, no, my Chief Minister is not downplaying the threat. Your response to him?
See, I first go back to, we were trying to speak to Radha Kumar. Let me just say, if threat perception had been brought down and as interlocutors believed that AFSPA should be revoked, then I think it is time to review whoever was making such statements, and especially interlocutors for having mentioned it in their report. That's to go with. And I think in the same periphery, Omar Abdullah also gets covered, because if we go by the statements he has been repeatedly making about AFSPA, about other things in Jammu and Kashmir, it's like running with the hare and hunting with the hound. So whenever, whatever suits, you make those statements and never really want to absolve themselves of such responsibility which befall on them.
Well, a pointed question here. Let's open up the debate. Radha Kumar will take some time getting hooked up on the audio line. My question to you is, Tanveer Sadiq, let's be pointed tonight. Omar Abdullah said at the press conference, why don't you talk about the murders of Panchayat members in Bihar? With all respect, can there be a more flawed argument than that? If he's talking about a woman Panchayat chief being shot dead by unidentified men in Bihar in July this year, I'm sure he knows that that was because of political rivalry linked to the Panchayat elections, not a terror threat. Do you think the Chief Minister made another blunder there? And if he made that blunder, why did he make that blunder?
Mr. Goswami, if you've already decided how to conclude your program, I don't have much to say. But with all due respect to you, when the Honorable Chief Minister said this, he meant that you are trying to project that Kashmir is burning right now. You're trying to say that everything is bad right now happening in Kashmir, but you don't understand that we took immediate action. We have already stated that we will provide all security to all these punches and sarpanches.
No.
You have to understand. You have to understand.
Answer the question. Answer the question. Why does the Chief Minister distort the facts? A Chief Minister says that talk about what's happening in Bihar. Is there a terror threat in Bihar, Mr. Sadiq? Is there a terror threat in Bihar?
There is no, you don't understand. No,
why is the Chief Minister distorting the facts?
There is more crime. There is more crime in Naxalite.
I am not talking about crime. I am talking about terror.
He even mentioned, okay. He even mentioned Naxalites. Why aren't you talking about?
I am talking about a specific instance.
I'd like to say one
Meenakshi Lekhi is coming into the debate. Murtaza, I'm coming back to you. Meenakshi, yes.
Just one line that to my information throughout there have been posters and there have been pointed posters saying that withdraw yourself from the Panchayat and else you will be killed, and these are posters in Urdu across Kashmir in various villages. Why no action has been taken? And I hold both center and the state responsible for this kind of situation. You're having a Congress party meetings in Delhi where you make one kind of statement. You have a chief minister who's sitting in the state making another kind of statements. Are they not aware of these posters? If people sitting in Delhi are.
And why is the Panchayati Raj system not being implemented in Jammu and Kashmir? Fundamental question here today.
That is again, the powers of the Panchayat do not rest with Panchayat.
I want to come in here.
No, one second. Murtaza wanted to come back.
I want to come in here.
Murtaza wanted to come back, then I come to you for a second round here. Question tonight is, why is Omar Abdullah distorting the facts to try and downplay the terror threat in his own state? Why is this happening repeatedly? Murtaza wants to make a point to you, Sadiq. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Arnav. I want to ask those who want to compare Jammu and Kashmir with Bihar. I just want to ask, is it not a fact that many of the organizations of panches and sarpanches in Jammu and Kashmir represented to the Chief Minister as late as June this year with a request that there are vulnerable people from amongst themselves and they could be targeted, so they need to be protected. Now, Omar Abdullah's government, since he is heading the Home Department himself, he writes a few letters to the police chief and people from here and there, simply passing on those representations of these organizations to take care of these situations. Now, it was a serious matter. Posters were put across, but he did not take any concrete actions on the ground to create an atmosphere.
Why is he not acting? The entire country is concerned now at the strange reactions of the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. He even refuses for a long time to acknowledge the role of Pakistan in pushing terrorists into Jammu and Kashmir. He blames the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Sadiq, blames the Indian Army, but doesn't say a word about Pakistan.
No, he never blamed the Indian Army. Please don't distort the facts. He never blamed the Indian Army. And plus, before I come back to you, let me tell Mr. Khan that there is a mechanism The Chief Minister has already said that we'll build a mechanism in which the elected people will feel secured. We have been doing it before. We will try to do it time and again. The point is that there are elements who will try to destabilize or vitiate the atmosphere. Now, you are only helping them by doing what you are doing.
I'm sorry, Sadiq. I'm sorry, Mr. Sadiq. There's a September 17, 2012 report that there's a 100% rise in cross-border infiltration. It's a Ministry of Home Affairs report. I mean, you can't run with the hare and hunt with the hound. You're in power in Delhi. Farooq Abdullah is a minister in Delhi. You're in alliance with the Congress party in Srinagar. You blame the Congress party for not implementing Panchayati Raj. You blame the central government for infiltration. You blame everyone but yourself.
We have been fighting, Mr. Goswami, we have been fighting militancy for 20 years. So it's not like we are not doing anything. We have come to a level where we can say that peace has returned to a large extent. But you don't understand, because you only go with the negative part.
1 second. Let's not get into the positive negative argument. I am only presenting facts to you today, Mr. Sadiq. One by one, I am presenting facts.
No, but then I'm
asking you why your Chief Minister makes the comparison to Bihar.
First you say that the government doesn't react.
But you have not been able to explain.
The government doesn't react. When the government reacts, when the government reacts, you say it's not enough.
I'm sorry, but the government has reacted after 2 days.
Can I intervene?
1 second. Meenakshi Lekhi also wants to come in. Yes, Meenakshi, go ahead.
I wanted to say, if you're comparing yourself with Bihar, then compare your Panchayati Raj institution with Bihar. Compare that 50% of women have been given the seats. Compare that the kind of power Panchayat and the Sarpanches exude. Look at the manner in which financial affairs are handled by Panchayat. So have a positive comparison instead of a negative comparison. Instead of comparing your law and order situation with Bihar, a terrorism infected state, with another one which is not so, I think comparison should be at law and order and law to the hilt. Apply Panchayati Raj system to the hilt and give the Panchayats the power which you fear you don't want to give them because you want to control them.
No, Mrs. Lekhi, our Panchayat Raj Act is the best in the country. Even the Union Panchayat Secretary has said that.
Mr. Sadiq, let me take you point to point on that.
I will not go by what Secretary says. I will go by what the people of Jammu and Kashmir say. And I have met several people from Pahadi regions, from several regions.
Jammu and Kashmir say. See, our Panchayat Act is
more powerful
than any act in.
Tell me which particular section are you referring to? Tell me which financial powers you are referring to. Tell me the number of women who can be elected.
If you are talking about the 73 and the 74 amendment, we have already incorporated all the positive parts of it in our Panchayat.
That's incorrect.
That's incorrect. That's completely incorrect. I'm sorry, Mr. Sadiq, that is completely incorrect.
You have not incorporated.
That is so completely incorrect because there is so completely factually incorrect, Mr. Sadiq.
That's factually incorrect. My learned friend from National Conference, he is perhaps not acquainted with the facts. This is not at par with the requirements of 73rd and 74th Amendment. There are so many things to be amended. We have already attempted twice to introduce amendments in the Assembly. Our amendments were opposed by the National Conference tooth and nail. This act is not, this legislation
Mr. Sadiq,
is not
please
at
tell
par
me,
with the requirements of the Constitution of India.
Then Mr. Khan, I'm sorry to say that Mr. Khan is totally unaware of it. You have to understand
perhaps I worked a lot.
We cannot get. Even in this upcoming session,
I have moved certain amendments to bring it at par with the.
That is your interpretation, Mr. Sadiq. You must understand, Mr. Sadiq. You must understand. That is your interpretation. The fact of the matter is, Omar Abdullah says.
I just want to intervene on one.
No, 1 second. Omar Abdullah says that we want democracy. We presume Omar Abdullah knows that grassroots institutions are the key to the success of a democracy. And the Congress party has today embarrassed Omar Abdullah with one of its leaders alleging that Omar Abdullah was willing to implement the 73rd Amendment but was dissuaded by his advisors. Who are these advisors? Who are these grassland?
No.
Who are these advisors who are telling Omar Abdullah not to? The definition of democracy cannot be different.
Let me make it very.
Cannot be different in two parts of this country, Mr. Sadiq.
Let me.
Arnab, I want to make a point. I want to make a point, Arnab.
Mr. Khan, 1 minute.
I want to ask National Conference leaders what prevented them from announcing the second tier of these Panchayati Raj elections. You know, these elections had to be completed within 2 weeks of the election of the panchayats. They waited for 2.5 years, and then now they have announced. Now when they see that people in bulk are resigning from these panchayats, they have announced the elections for the block development councils. My question is, what prevented them during all these months? Why didn't they announce these elections? Now when they want to hold those back, they want to hold the people back who are resigning. That's why they have gone for it. Now, had they done it earlier, had they given financial powers to these bodies, perhaps things would have been different. As I said in the very beginning, these people, they have been exposed to threats, but at the same time, they have not been given power. They don't have even a single penny at their disposal to plan for or to spend in their respective countries.
One second. Let me get in. One second, Sadiq. The question tonight is, in the system of panchayats in Kashmir, you don't empower the grassroots workers. Those grassroots workers today, allow me, Sadiq. Allow me, Mr. Sadiq. Those grassroots workers are being threatened by terrorists.
My coming of the program does not.
Mr. Sadiq, you must take the questions.
It's no good if you don't want to listen to me.
Mr. Sadiq, you must take the questions. If you don't want to take the questions, what's the point? It's a democracy. You must take the questions.
I took a question from Mr. Khan. Let me answer.
No, I'm asking you a question. Would you take my question, or do you want to dodge my question?
Of course, but then you have to understand. You have to take my answer as well.
1 second.
You don't let me speak, and then you.
Mr. Sadiq, you have had the most opportunity to speak, but I just want to humbly tell you, please, with all respect, that because Radha Kumar, I couldn't go to her twice earlier in the course of the discussion. I want to go across to Radha Kumar, ma'am. I hope my audio line is clear to you now.
Yes.
Well, good. I thought I was very unlucky with the audio with your satellite feed, but thank you for joining us on the show. And though it's the last part of the show, earlier, Meenakshi Lekhi had a pointed question for you. She blamed the way in which interlocutors handled the Jammu and Kashmir problem, and she directly linked it to the problems being faced by Jammu and Kashmir now, the rising terror threat, the Lashkar threat, and the way the Omar Abdullah government has been handling it. Now, I want her to make her point directly to you so you can respond. Meenakshi Lekhi, may I request you please to make your point a second time to Radha Kumar tonight. Go ahead.
My basic question is, 73rd, 74th Amendment to the Constitution has not been completely adopted by Omar Abdullah government. And the second point which I was making was regarding AFSPA. The kind of terror threats which the local leaders are getting and who are elected leaders shows that AFSPA is very much required, and under the circumstances your assessment of the situation was incorrect so as to revoke AFSPA from Jammu and Kashmir, especially the valley.
Okay, that was our point to you. Radha Kumar, I'd like you to come back because everyone's talking about the AFSPA, the need to strengthen the army, not dilute its powers.
All right, 2 points. First of all, we have talked about the 73rd and 74th Amendments at great detail in our report, and we've talked about the need for, as expressed by all the sarpanches we met. You know, we met about 300 panches and sarpanches at different points of time during the year of our mission, and they were all very clear that they required the same powers, and that they required these powers to be handed to them very quickly. There was a legal problem in that, in that the Jammu and Kashmir Act requires all tiers of elections to be held before the full powers can be given. And I would still urge that the political leadership of Jammu and Kashmir, by which I mean also the members of the Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council, consider how they can quickly, as a special case, ensure that powers are given to the current elected members and not wait necessarily for every tier of election to be completed before these powers are given. It's my belief that that will also help give them more security. Your second point on AFSPA. Again, I'm afraid it seems that you have not read our report. What we have said in our report is, number one, and here I would agree with what Mr. Sadiq and others were saying earlier, the situation compared to what it was in the early 2000s is very much better.
How do you say
today.
that? How do you say that, Radha Kumar? 100% increase in cross-border infiltration. How do you say?
No, that's not
Jammu and Kashmir at the time, and Baramulla, the lady got shot, who was contesting elections.
No, I just want to, because I want to put a counterpoint to you, and then I'll come back to you.
Let me give you the figures.
Can I share some figures, and then you give me the counter figures? I'll give you the figures, you can counter them.
Sure.
My figures are...
Okay.
That's Ministry of Home Affairs, to whom you gave your report, by the way. 100% increase in cross-border infiltration. 67 incidents till July 2012. 139 Pakistani terrorists crossed the LOC compared to 93 last year. That's a 45% jump. 252 attempts in 2011 to infiltrate. 487 attempts in 2009. 98 managed to sneak in. None of these figures which I'm quoting to you today tell me that the situation is getting any better. Now, if your argument is the people may have come in, but they haven't carried out the violence yet, and therefore let us presume the situation is better, then that doesn't work, does it?
Now, will you let me answer your points and your figures? Okay. First of all, my comparison was with the early 2000s. Your comparison is between this year and last year.
Why is that a wrong comparison?
As a matter of fact, in the feedback, well, first of all, in our report, we could not possibly talk about figures from last year to this year. Our report was completed in October 2011.
If I say that
the figures we had showed us. No, you have to let me finish giving you the figures I have.
No, you are saying that you're comparing it to 2000. My question to you is, why are you comparing it to 12 years back and not 2 years back? Please tell me why.
We compared figures from 1999 to 2011, year by year. And by the way, we used figures given to us by the Home Ministry. You may check these figures with the Home Ministry.
I am quoting figures with the Home Ministry which are more recent.
3 sets. We have, well, how in October 2011 can I talk about figures in October 2012?
Why in 2011 or 2012 would you not talk about 2009? It's the most relevant question to ask.
We did. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. We went year by year from 1999 to 2011. Just read the first chapter of the report.
Ms. Radha Kumar, you're just getting angry. My point to you is recent Ministry of Home Affairs reports state that there is an over 100% increase in cross-border infiltration. The question is being asked you in the context of the country cannot lower its guard.
2011. Look, for God's sake, understand how statistical comparisons are being made.
Ma'am, I understand statistical comparisons.
They are talking about an increase from 2011 to 2012.
If I take the benchmark, by that logic.
Indicate,
Mr. Goswami.
All right, but are you going to let me complete what I have to say?
I have got the figures.
By that comparison, you can certainly say that figures for infiltration have gone up from 2011 to 2012. Then you must look at the rate of militancy and killing. What are the instances? What are the incidents? If you have a declining chart in which actual fatalities and incidents have fallen below 500, that was for the very first time in 2009, that they began to decline. So you can certainly make the point that the decline has happened and now there is a rising trend again. That point I will not contest.
The question is very simple.
I am not arguing that there is no rising
my question to you is very simple, and with all respect, I have all the figures with me. Of incidents, civilian fatalities, security fatalities, terrorist fatalities, let's talk total fatalities. Why that, ma'am, Ms. Radha Kumar? Let's talk about the number of explosions. Let's talk about the number of infiltration attempts. And my question to you is very straight tonight. If I make the comparison to 2006, in 2006 the figure was very high. Therefore, if I say today that in comparison to 2006, the figure of 2012 is less, though if I take the graph back 2 years, 2012 appears greater, the simple question the people of India would want to know, why do you want a convenient comparison? Why would you not compare yourself with the recent upturn in the graph also in infiltration?
I'm sorry, you're being ridiculous. Look here.
Ma'am, it's a straightforward question.
It's
a pretty straightforward question with the facts. Are you going to let
me speak at all, or are you just going to interrupt me every time I open my mouth?
I don't know the ridiculousness of it. These are figures that have been given to you.
You don't want me to answer? Yeah, so let me answer. Yes. According to your question. Your first question to me was on, is there a rising curve? And that there is a 100% increase and so on and so forth. And therefore, should not AFSPA and the presence of the army be strengthened? Am I correct? Is that your question, or is it not?
My question to you is that you cannot have a comparison only to a specific year. That way we can keep changing the year and keep changing the graph. Also the percentage...
I'm sorry, I never made a comparison to one
You just said you're comparing it to 2000 anyway. It's all right.
This is... No. This is the fourth time I am telling you that we took a graph from 1999 year by year. 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, blah, 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 up until 2011. Every year, we noticed a rising trend, 1999 peaking in about 2004, 5 and 6 at the absolute height. Greatest number of fatalities and other violent instances. Then we saw a decline coming down up until 2011. We saw a steady decline. That was the point I made. Now fatalities also fell in 2009 below 500 for the first time in 12 years.
Ma'am, you are looking at
that
it.
That continued.
Ma'am, I am sorry, but I will ask the same point to you again. You may call it ridiculous, but the ridiculous point is this, and you need to hear it, Ms. Radha Kumar. The ridiculous point is this, that in 2011, and you can go back and check these facts, Ms. Radha Kumar. You can ask the Ministry of Home Affairs. In 2010, there were 26 cases where militants managed to sneak in across the border. I take the same period in 2012, there are 67 instances. So, it's more than twice the number of infiltration attempts, successful infiltration attempts, which have been carried out across the border. If that is the case, the larger point being made is, how can this country afford to lower its guard? That's the simple and fairly elementary point, Ms. Radha Kumar, which is being made to you. I'm happy to, I'm making it the another time. Meenakshi Lekhi wanted to respond to you earlier. Meenakshi Lekhi, would you like to make your point?
One more point.
Ms. Lekhi.
But I have still not answered her question on AFSPA.
Meenakshi Lekhi is coming to you. She wants to make a counterpoint, ma'am. Yes.
Ma'am, one more point I just want to add up. And my point is that when you're preparing reports, the reports are not only about objective assessment, it's about subjective authority also.
That's so true.
Now, when a situation like this exists, why will you compare it with 1999 and not 1990 or 1980 or one such figure? There has to be a basis for it. And when Gibraltar, etc., those kinds of things started. Plus, can you ever take your eyes off Pakistan? Can you ever forget the history which we share with Pakistan? And if we cannot, when you are making reports, the projected report also needs to come. That, okay, so far this, but we can't say about
the projections
future.
Of the army as well.
Cannot be revoked. I'm sorry. Okay, let us go to what we said about AFSPA.
That's good.
If you read what we have said in our report, we have not said AFSPA should be revoked. We have said that questions have come up about AFSPA.
Yep.
One group of people, the human rights people, say revoke it. The Chief Minister says selectively lift the DA from those areas in which peace has returned more or less. And the Jeevan Reddy Commission had recommended a review, as had the Prime Minister's working group. And we said that the army, look, we said that the experts are our Defense Ministry and our Army. The Army should take a quick review and a quick call on this instead of allowing the issue to continue to breed poison in Jammu and Kashmir. Yeah. That is what, if you go back and read our report, 3 pages is what it says.
Well, you know, I don't think we come to a quick agreement on this.
Sorry, I don't see that at all. Our point, because when you say it is putting poison, I mean, this is a colourful remark that which categorically you are stating that AFSPA is not serving its purpose. When I'm making a contrary point that AFSPA is very much required and is serving the purpose.
The debate on Jammu and Kashmir has got reactivated today with what has been happening with the attacks on Sarpanchs.
Can I make a quick comment, please?
Mr. Sadiq, I'm completely short of time. I have a next panel coming up on what's happening in Maharashtra. I will come back to you and I assure you, Mr. Sadiq, we will discuss it at length.
But just before you leave, you're talking about AFSPA. The army has AFSPA. In spite of that, you're just saying that these incidents have increased. So that means AFSPA didn't help them. But we are on the contrary saying that the militancy activities have...
Okay, that debate will come up another day. Then you're taking a position there. You see, the same army which the Chief Minister both criticizes and wants to shoot over the shoulders of is also blamed conveniently by your party.
They will choose convenience.
Well, I wrap up this debate only for the moment. I'm going to have to revisit it once again later quite clearly.
According to your reports and your statistics, if according to your statistics,
Mr. Sadiq, these are statistics of governments in Delhi and Srinagar in which your party has a stake both in Delhi and Srinagar. Mr. Sadiq, I mean, come on. These are statistics, government statistics I've quoted. There are different ways of looking at it. Radha Kumar chooses to look at it one way, you do another way, that's all right.
The way you want to conclude it. Let me quickly
Mr. Sadiq, I will take this up with you once more.
Umar Abdullah wanted that AFSPA should be revoked from peaceful areas.
Then hear it from me, Mr. Sadiq. This debate is to be and will be. This debate is to be and will be continued. I wrap it up only for the moment. Only for the moment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.